Today's shir is dedicated to Rav David Redder, who I had the privilege to meet at the West Side Cole in the West Side of Manhattan, and he shared with me an unbelievable idea. I must call him Rebbe now because he taught me an unbelievable idea, and I'd like to share it with you tonight. Everyone knows, not everyone, but some people know, that the sefer that I was zoichet to put out with Mr. Elmiger, Yedidya, and the reason we call it Yedidya is because Yedid HaKoah, a friend of God, and Yedidya becomes a friend of God by going through the difficulties he went through. The word Yedid is an interesting word. Yedid is made up of two, as Rav Redder told me, and I was aware of that previously as well. Yedid is made up of Yad Yad, and a real Yedid is when you put your hands together. When two people put their hands together, that's real Yedidus. Then there's a tight, close bond between them. What I didn't know, what Rav Redder shared with me, is the following idea. Is if you take the gematria of Yad, which is 14, that's one hand, and you take the gematria of another hand, that's another 14, that's 28 altogether, and you put them two together, you get koyach. 14 plus 14 is 28, and koach is strength. Two hands together make koach, and it's in fact, it's a pasuk in Mishlei. It says, toiv shnayim and echad. Two is better than one. V'chutam hashulush lo b'mher yinatik, and three is not going to break very easily. That's another shir by itself. But today we're talking about Yad Yad, that two hands together gives incredible strength, right? When two people put themselves together. And this is true, of course, in Shalom Bayis. When husband and wife gets together, you have the man's hand and the male hand, which is Chesed, and the female hand, which is Gvura. They come together, and that makes Tiferes. But two hands together, this is an incredible, powerful mechanism that we can employ. And I heard, while I was in the town of Lawrence, from one of my close Yedidim and Rebbeim, and he also considers himself a Talmud of Bar Koilel, Rabbi Shua Kalish. He told us some klolim, right? For klolim, for peace and harmony in the home, which I feel I must share with you since they're so connected to this topic. One idea was like this. He said, people get married, and the husband say, I'm going to fix my wife, and the wife says, I'm going to fix my husband. This is a big mistake, right? And this I heard as well from my Rebbe, Rav Shlomo Safrani. He said, the husband should work on fixing himself, and the wife should work on fixing herself. And then this will be beautiful matrimonial harmony. That's number one. But number two is that the husband's greatest goal should be to make his wife happy, and the wife's greatest goal should be to make her husband happy. And when you do that, that's Yedidus, that's Yad Yad. Then you're putting together the strength of two individuals and making a wonderful marriage. Rav Kalish added, another great secret to marriage is no criticism. Don't say anything negative about your spouse, your partner, because who are you to criticize somebody else? Who do you think you are? Kosher atzmacha tchila. Dress up yourself first. Nobody is perfect, especially spouses. Every spouse has hundreds and hundreds of problems. And fix yourself up first, right? And we'll never be really capable of fixing yourself completely. This is a lifetime avoda to fix yourself up. This is why we're giving so many years in this world to fix ourselves up and to better ourselves in this world. I want to finish off with a story that I read in a certain book. It was a secular book. It was about a group who the women were taking upon themselves to grow, and they asked their spouses, their husbands, to tell them 6 things they needed to work on. 6 things to work on. Apparently, they hadn't heard Rabbi Kalish's shir. So this group of I believe it was from a church. But in any event, they asked for 6 things. So one husband who was very smart, a very intelligent husband, instead of telling his wife 6 things she needed to work on, he gave her 6 beautiful roses. And she woke up in the morning with 6 beautiful roses by her bed, and with a little note that said, I like you just the way you are. I like you just the way you are. And the woman started crying. She said, I'm so happy to get this note because had I heard even one criticism of the way I am, I would have broken down crying. And how many of ourselves can say that we enjoy hearing criticism? Raise your hand if you love when your spouse says caustic, negative things about you. I don't think we're going to have so many hands raised because it's not the goal to criticize your spouse, just the opposite. The goal is to accept your spouse's shortcomings and realize that you can help them grow. You can help them by lifting them up and by strengthening them. I saw in another very excellent book, also written by one of the Chachmei Umas Ha'olam. He says, in marriage should be a partnership, which means strengthen each other. Realize your spouse's shortcomings and strengthen themselves. Instead of becoming critical, strengthen them and give them chizuk, give them encouragement that they should become even better and better, each one in their own respective areas. If we do this, we'll be living in Olam Haba, as we say every day in Shema. We can have the days of heaven on earth. And I was just at a chuppah right before I left. Baruch Hashem. Baruch Hashem. It was a wonderful, wonderful simcha of a young lady that I tried really to help. And at the chuppah they say, of course, the bracha, right, that we should be sameach like Gan Eden. The Gan Eden. How are you sameach like Gan Eden? Right? The way you sameach like Gan Eden is if each person thinks that they're in Gan Eden with this other person. They don't criticize. They don't try to fix them. Nothing. They say, my spouse is completely perfect. I'm the one who needs to work. The other one says, my spouse is perfect. I'm the one who needs to work. And you know what? If they both do that, they'll both be working on themselves and it'll be a wonderful marriage. But if each one thinks, wow, my spouse is a jerk, he really needs to work on himself. If he thinks, wow, my spouse is an idiot, and they're handing out brains, he must not have been standing in line. If they think like that, it's going to not last very long. It'll be a terrible marriage. So let's just try and drop that and just think positively about your spouse. Try to have yedidus, yad yad. And like Rabbi Redder taught me, yad yad is koyach. When you have real yedidus, then you have strength. Right? We should all go from strength to strength and have with our spouse, with our children, with our friends, with our neighbors, true yedidus, true yad yad. Amen. Kain Tiratzah.